All right, here's a little hint on the quiz coming up here. So there's some things that you should know going into it. The first one says use a protractor to classify the triangle by its angles and sides. Protractors are in my red bucket where the markers go. So Tammy, you're the one that always finds those. Mike, if you can point out where those protractors are, there in the marker bucket. Just pass them around. A couple per table ought to do the trick. Maybe take turns who's doing number one and not. The key to measuring the angles, remember, is extending the two sides. Just measure that top angle. That's the one we want to know about. If that one's acute, obtuse, or right, that's the one that's going to determine the kind of triangle we are. So you always kind of look to that angle up there that might be obtuse or might be right. So you measure that, extend the two sides, and then determine what you think it is by degree. And then go back, and then the next place is measure the sides, because the next part is to say, all right, it's acute or obtuse or right. Then you want to talk about its sides, scaling isosceles or equilateral. So now you take that on, measure those sides, and yes, use the measurement device on the bottom of your protractor. I think it's in centimeters. 2 is no big deal. 3, you want to draw that. I'm looking for the drawing and you labeling it. That's probably the majority of the points. Can you draw that and label it appropriately? And then, of course, you want to find the value of x by setting the appropriate things equal. Label carefully. It says isosceles in there. Okay, don't do 4. Cross it out. Then there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is marking which angles are which. Just go in and find all the angles in the picture first, and then go back and answer the questions. I just go find every angle. Kind of use all what you know about straight lines being 180 and so on. So you'll be good. Now go to the bottom of that quiz. I actually want to use the bottom as a preview of what's coming. So quiz 2. You actually know most of the things on there, but let's just take a second to use it as kind of a preview of what's to come. You'll have a quiz similar to it later on. But so use it as notes. Identify the congruent triangles in the figure. So you're going to mark, the parts that match, those two sides match up there. Then you want to mark, all right, let's see. Oh, I got a side that's shared. That's another side that matches. Oh, hey, wait. Hey, the bottom two, those match. Those are side, and a side matching. So we know it's side congruence. Next one is something new, but relatively easy to deal with. Number 2 says, which angle corresponds to I? Well, the way these triangle congruent statements are done, that is called a triangle congruent statement. That's Graham, by the way. You can tell this is a sick little boy. Anyway, those triangles, the way it's written, the order J, G, O, and R, W, I, the vertices of the triangles are written appropriately. It's saying that corner J, or vertex J, matches corner R. Corner G matches corner W. Vertex O matches vertex I. And that answers our question. So what's the corresponding angle to I? It's O. So if you mark them bit by bit, compare them in order, you see the angle O is the corresponding side, just by the congruent statement. And that's the importance of those congruent statements. So next, in the diagram here, I want to show you how you can use that congruent statement to help point things out. ABC is congruent to DEF. That means A, B, and DE are matching sides. So if AB is 10, that means ED is 10. You could set those equal to each other. If you look closely in those two, you can't solve because it has an X and a Y. So you'd go, I'm not going to work with that one. I need to know what Y or I need to know what X is to solve that. You'd be right. So the next thing is I look at maybe an angle. Angle E and angle B are corresponding. They're both the middle corner of the angle. So those are equal. So that means, oh, hey, those two angles are equal. So 6y minus 4 equals 80. You can solve for y. And we get y is 14 degrees, or y is 14. You could plug it back in, get that angle if you like. I highly recommend it. Or you could use y in that silly equation I got a minute ago with BA equal to ED, the 10 equal to 3x minus y that I couldn't solve. Well, now I have y. So I can put in the y. I can solve for x. X equals 8. If you need to see the algebra, just back up, pause, look at it later. This is all on Twitter as well. Then y we already had, so let's label that, and we're good to go. So just be careful. That's the kind of problem I'm looking for you to know how to do. Look forward. Number 4, figure QR is congruent to SR. In this kind, I want you to show the markings. So there they are. Those two are marked congruent. Take the givens and mark them in the picture. That's huge. So there's PQ to TS, got them in red. Tried to color code this for you. When it says point R is the midpoint of PT, we just mentioned this yesterday, that means you want to mark the two pieces congruent as marked here. Okay, so if that wasn't clear yesterday, I hope you can see that. Finally, what I've got, if you notice, is matching sides, and I color-coded it so you can see which sides match. That's side, side, side. That's a congruent set of triangles because there's 3 sets of matching sides. Bottom one, what's the relationship between Q and S? This is the congruence statement, again, you want to refer to. So if you look up, I underlined the Q and the S. They are in the corresponding spot in that congruent statement. And what I mean by congruent statement is triangle QRP congruent to triangle SRT. And that means Q and S are congruent angles. That's it. Email, text questions, or I'm sorry, tweet questions if you have them. Have a great weekend.